Okay, we're just about ready to start doing the sawing. I've got all the bits ready. As you can see here, this is the main piece. There are 3 bits of wood joined together with tacks, and then I've got all the little pieces, the shelf brackets, the overlays to go on it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start on the main piece first. I've already changed the blade in the saw. What I've done, I put a number 5 reverse tooth blade in. Now I'm not going to cover all of the sawing for obvious reasons, because I've done it quite a few times now on several videos. I'm just going to show you the odd bit, and then I'll show you the finished article basically, and how it's finished. So where are we going to start? Now when you're doing a design, it's always good to have a good look at it first and choose the best places to start. Obviously you don't want to cut the outside until you've done the inside, the delicate parts, because if you do some of these little delicate parts like the giraffe's ears, you might snap them off while you're doing the rest of it. So it's best to leave that till last. And these flower petals are going to be delicate, aren't they? I mean, that's a very delicate part of the pattern. First thing to do, release the tension. I've done this umpteen times before, but I just want to show you because you might not have seen none of my videos. And then poke the blade through the hole in the bottom of the wood. Pop the blade back in the holder. Tighten the quick clamp up. Do the tension up. And then we're ready to go. And what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to do a little bit of cutting just to show the thing's working. This is quite thick, this wood, because I've got 3 layers of wood here. You see, rather than try and go around that sharp corner, I'm going to back into the hole and then spin the saw around, and I go back up the cut where I already come from. And now it will bite nicely into this corner here because I've got a nice sharp right angle there, so you won't get a ridge or anything. I have showed you this in my other videos. Now into that top corner, I'm going to stop there and go back again. I could spin it round there because it's a bit round, but I won't do. So I'm going back into the centre again. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to approach that corner from the middle of here. Make sure these little bits come out, because if you get them trapped underneath the saw, it'll impede the workflow, the thing won't move, and it'll be annoying. So again, as I mentioned, you see, because I went across at a right angle there, I've got something for the blade to bite into. If you go across at a steep angle, which seems the obvious way to do it, it's always more awkward to get the blade to dig in, so a right angle is better. You might not think so, but when you start doing it, you'll see I'm right. Now in this next bit, that goes into that little part of the flower. I could spin it round there, but I'll give it a go. I'll spin round there, and then I can go back into this other corner around here, look. Please don't want to come off, there we go. Well, that's the first piece done. It's just a matter of about another 32 more pieces to cut out, and we should be finished. Anyway, I'll leave it. I'll just introduce Ratty to you. This is Ratty. He's my mascot, and he's going to be appearing in some of my videos. Anyway, I'll get on with the rest of it, and I'll come back a bit later when I've done some more. Well, I've just had another blade break, but as usual, the actual blade itself didn't break. It broke off right in the bottom. You can see you might be able to see the tiny little piece of the blade here. I'll just pop it up there so you can see it. You see, just the little end of the blade broke off where it fits in the block here. And so it didn't break actually where I was using it. It snapped off there. So I don't think it was my cutting. It's one of those things. I had a problem a few years ago. I bought a batch of blades under the Flying Dutchman brand because they were highly recommended in one of the forums. And I had nothing but bad luck with them. Every single one broke off like that, and I stopped using them in the end. Anyway, I digress. I've been using the number 5 blade, so now I'm getting to these more delicate parts. I'm going to put a number 3 in, which is a slightly thinner blade, and I'll probably get a few of these break as well. Normally I can do a whole project with a breaking blade, but if you can see, they're very thin. This is a number 3. I've got blades much smaller than this. They go down number 3, 2, 1, 0, 00. And there are even some even finer than that, the so-called jewellery blades. Make sure I've got it the right way around. Run your finger up the blade like this and you can feel the teeth pointing down. If they point in the other way, change it, because the thing will jump about all the time. It'll drive you potty. There's some wood underneath. I'm going to have to lift it up again. Tiny bit, look, just a little tiny piece like that, and of course it lifts it off the table. It makes it awkward. I'm going to go into this corner here. Another thing you've got to take into account when you're using a much thinner blade is that it'll tend to weave more off the line, whereas a thicker, wider blade is more likely to stay on the line, so you've got to be that much more careful that it doesn't wander away, so to speak. See? I jumped out of my skin. Now that one snapped off in the middle. Oh dear, oh dear. We're not having much success. That's 3 blades so far on this project. See, that's one thing about the Hegner, and I mentioned it many times before. I can put that blade holder in underneath that table without even looking at it. I just feel it and it's done. That is one thing. It's very easy to do. But when you're doing something like this, unless the blade breaks, you don't really need to take the bottom holder out. You just leave it in all the time. These blades do wander a lot more. I can tell straight away. I can feel it. Now the sun's shining through the window on the work and making it even more difficult now. Where I normally have the saw, I have it the other way round against the window, and the sun shines through the window, and you see this line here. This is the sun shining through the blade and creating a line. Well, you can imagine if you're cutting that way, if the saw's over at right angles to this, you try and follow that line of the blade rather than the actual line on the work. It does make it very difficult. In fact, sometimes I have to put a thing across the window to stop the light coming in because I can't see what I'm doing. I've got a few more here to do, and I'll turn the camera off now and do those while I'm off camera, and I'll come back when I've done all the internals. I've just about finished all the cutting of the giraffe bracket now. I altered the design slightly from my original because some of the parts were quite delicate. These palm trees, for example, I thought the leaves might snap off, so I have actually made them a little bit fatter. As you can see, there's the top one. I haven't taken the pattern off or anything or done any sanding. You can see it if I turn it over. You could have it either way, obviously. I've got to get the pattern off, but you could put it which way you like. And then I've got the 2 plywood ones. That's the middle plywood one, look. And as you can see, there's virtually no cutout on there. Just needs a light sanding. And the back one, the thicker plywood, is the sacrificial one. As you can see on the back, there is some cutout from where the saws come out, but nothing too serious, and a light sanding, that will be usable as well. So I've actually got 3 brackets I can use, but in any case, I never do just one, I always do more than one, 2 at the minimum, and then you've always got a spare one, and also if the back one's spoilt, you've got the front one protected. As you can see, I've also cut the little brackets and things. There's the little shelves there, look. And the little bracket for the shelf, the little decal for the shelf, and then the little shelf brackets themselves. There is another piece, a little frame I've got to cut out on here to put a mirror or a picture in. I haven't done that yet. I don't like doing that, it's the awkward part. I finished the giraffe bracket now, and I just thought I'd show you the finished result. Here is the dark wood version with the mahogany on. Obviously this is a bit thicker. When you're using solid wood, even if it's hardwood, you need to have it a bit thicker. If you made it thin like the plywood we generally use, then the bits are going to snap off, so it's got to be a bit thicker, and it makes it look more chunkier. But it's not too, it hasn't turned out too bad actually. And I put a plywood light backing on it to sort of show it up a bit. This is the other one I've made. This is the light wood. This is plywood on dark wood, and obviously because it's plywood you can use much thinner wood, and actually I think I do prefer the light wood one actually in this case. It seems to show up nicer, and I think it looks nicer a bit thinner. The worst thing to cut out on these, in actual fact, was the little mirror frame, this piece here that goes around the mirror. I found that the hardest to cut out. As always, doing long continuous straight lines and long curved lines are always the hardest thing to cut out in fretwork, in my opinion that is, and that's because if you don't get it right, it shows up, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Whereas with something like a flower, you can alter the it doesn't matter if the shape's not exactly like the pattern, as long as it's reasonable, it'll look okay. But with something like this frame, if I'd made that all higgledy-piggledy, it would have looked awful, wouldn't it? And you'd have spotted it straight away. When it comes to the mirrors, just in case anybody's not sure, both hobbies and handicrafts used to use things like this. This is a little beveled mirror. Obviously it's circular and these are rectangular, but this is just a sample. This is how hobbies and handicrafts used to offer these. With each design, they'd have a mirror that they would sell you to fit that particular design. Well, obviously, these being 100 years old, then you're not going to get those now. So what I do is I use this stuff, which is acrylic sheet. It's very good actually, because it looks like a mirror. You won't get the beveled edge on it for obvious reasons, but it's easy to cut and use, and it's fairly thin. And I found now that you can cut this if you want a straight one, you can use a pair of these tin snips. I find these are one of the best ways to cut a good straight edge out on this stuff. It cuts lovely and you don't get any splintering. If you're doing a circular mirror, as you can see I've cut one out here from one of my other designs, then you've got to use a fret saw or something to cut that out for obvious reasons. But that's good stuff. Don't go by the fact it doesn't look shiny. That's because it's got a protective coating on. When you peel that back, it's lovely and shiny underneath. And I think you'll agree, it doesn't look too bad on there. I don't know if you can see that. It's quite shiny, and you wouldn't even know it wasn't a proper glass mirror, I don't think. So I think that's quite good. And by the way, you can buy this cheaply. There are A4 sheets, and I got this off eBay. It was pretty cheap. There's two sorts. There's very thin one, which is all like stick-on, and like paper, and this slightly thicker acrylic one. Don't bother with the stick-on ones because they might be all right for certain things if you're making little decorations or something, but for something like this is the best. The stick-on stuff, the very thin stuff, is hopeless. You can't get a nice straight surface on it, so don't bother with it. I'm hoping that when I get my website up and running, and it's taken a long time to do it, I'll put these patterns on so people can download my patterns and save them and make things themselves. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Bye. And bye from Ratty.